Good. All right, welcome everybody. We have finally returned to talk about Stephen Erikson's The Crippled God. Again, this will be the second discussion we have on this uh, on notes and what we found, what stood out to us, stood out to me, and then what stood out to Varsha. I got Varsha here with me from Reading by the Rainy Mountains, so my partner in crime here, and trying to figure this stuff out. And um, once again, these are just things that are our opinions that just stood out to us as we were reading it. Any half-baked theories I come up with could be totally wrong. Um, and I would welcome people's opinions on what they think about all these different passages and stuff like that. And of course, we will in no way be able to cover everything because it's there's just so much in this book. Um, so if you were with us for part one, we got through books 1 through 3. And so we're going to continue on here from book 4 called The Fist of the World. And I only have a couple highlights for this section. So I'm going to bring that up here
Mm-hmm.
and we'll take a look at my first one, which is this section here. Um, it says, Father Light, is this what you want? What was in your mind when you walked out from the city? Through the gate that would be named for the day of your wedding, for your procession's path into the realm of dark. Did you ever imagine that would bring about the end of the world? Take the scepter in hand, walk to the throne. There is an old saying, every crown leaves a circle of blood. I always wondered what it meant. What was that circle surrounding the one now ruling, or closer still, like razors against the brow? So it seems we get a little bit of a look into the god of the Leosin, the Tais Leosin, and they're questioning um, what he wanted, what he was doing, what their god was doing, what Father Light was doing when he went to, um, I believe, yeah, to marry Mother Dark in the beginning, and so you're getting a little bit of taste of the mythology surrounding these three races, the three Teast races, the Leosin, the Andy, and then of course the Eater, which I think came about because of this union of light and dark, uh, shadow.
Mm.
um, so that just stood out to me because it's something that it's a mythology you're getting. It's something that will be touched upon in the Carcanis trilogy. But it's that ancient history that you only hear about in this particular series. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, this was interesting. It was an interesting look, and I think if I remember correctly, like looking at the name following this, so there are a few people from the Tisliosan on the other side of the shore, whose perspectives we follow. Right, there is the one who is leading all of them into this battle, and
Mhm.
there are, I think there's at least one person who's following him who might be this person. I don't remember the names correctly, but
Yeah.
who has doubt about whether they are doing the right thing, whether they need to go make themselves like basically doubt to the effect that he doesn't quite know what it is they're accomplishing other than keeping a very long battle alive for its own sake. um so I think as a sort of introduction to all of that, or interwoven with all of that, like thinking about your god in such moments of doubt, I think.
Mm.
And I think if I remember correctly, even the leader has moments of doubt too, but not the same kind of doubt about whether he'll succeed or not. So so I think they're essentially calling upon their god a little bit in this section, right? So it's interesting to get that perspective. And I suppose we've seen similar call outs to Mother Dark from
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Tistandi. Maybe not in this book, but in Toll the Hounds for sure. There are several that wonder at what she was thinking, which
Yep.
is the tone of this too. So that mirror is nice too. I had a question though, since you've read all the Esselmont books and I have read none. The scepter and the throne, is there an orb also? Like, is are the Leosun the subject of the book entitled Orb, Scepter, Throne, or is that something else altogether?
Actually, that's a good question. I actually didn't put those 2 together right there, but there is I think the scepter and the orb, I think the orb has to do more with the Andy, um, and I think the scepter has to do more with the Leosin,
Mm-hmm.
and the throne is where he was going, and I'm wondering I don't know for sure, but I'm wondering if that throne is related to the throne that they were defending in
Mm.
what was it, Bone Hunters or
Yeah. Bone Reaper's Gale.
Reaper's Gale? One of the somewhere around there. Uh,
Yeah, one of those.
and so Orb Scepter Throne does mention these things. It that book has more to do with the aftermath of Toll the Hounds on
I see.
Kennebec, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most I remember about it. But that's an interesting thought, really. I'll have to look into Orb Scepter Throne again and see if I remember any of that stuff.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only thing that's not mentioned here is the orb. So I it seems unlikely that the title is being directly referenced here, but more about kind of like what are the three uh people, the Destriant, Shield Anvil,
Yeah.
and the third one, like they are a generic concept that's applied everywhere. So I was wondering
Right.
about
Yeah.
Orb Scepter Throne, if that's something with a higher meaning in the world.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right because those titles kind of cross continents, and
Hmm.
they're like you said a general thing that all cultures seem to know about in one way or another.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so in book 4, I also had this highlight here. Um, this had to do with the Greyhelms, and um, it's somebody talking about what Krugaga saw. I think she speaking about shield anvils, right? Um, and she says, when we war against nature, we war against ourselves. There is no distinction, no dividing line, no enemy. We devour everything in a lust for self-destruction, as if that is intelligence's only gift, and then only curse. You mean somebody else says, but um, I really liked this this uh, this um, this conundrum right here that really goes to the heart of the whole problem with the gray helms. They're supposed to be fighting for nature. They're supposed to be like nature's supposed to rule all, and they're supposed to be fighting for the beast and fighting for, you know, um, I think their god is one of the beast gods, and they but they're disregarding the fact that they are also a part of nature and that other races, humans and other races are also a part of nature. And so that's like kind of the the dissonance that's happening within their own ranks here and why we eventually Krugaga gets I think she gets kicked out or she ends up somewhere else besides
Yeah.
with her parish greyhelms.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like how you put it.
Yeah, and we saw this coming, and he
Mm.
was giving a whole bunch of hints to this coming that there's a problem within that, and now the parish going to betray the Malazans, or are they going to fight with them against a full cruel assail eventually?
Mm. Yeah. So there. they were questioning the very motives, right? Like, why are we going to fight for humans? And the folk will assail, I guess, in the opinion of the other guy who tries to usurp her position. I forget his name, but I
Yeah,
really enjoyed following his POVs too. Uh,
yeah,
wanted to shake him up, but
yeah. I know. Was that Tanakelian or I f-
yes, yes.
was that his name?
I think it started with a T, and probably we might encounter it again.
Yeah,
But the yeah, he wants to join up with the Focal Assail because they are quote unquote fighting for nature, right? And Krugawa's obviously taking them to fight against the Assail, and so he thinks that they're fighting against the dis- destruction of nature. But yeah,
yeah, Tanakelian. Yeah,
yeah,
Krugaba's the mortal sword, and he's the shield anvil. Yeah,
hmm,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Uh, yeah. So I just I liked how that kind of summed up
hmm,
their whole issue with themselves.
yeah,
Really.
yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and that's I don't know if you had anything else for book 4. That's pretty much all I had for that section. It was
Let
I think a
me
shorter book out of
see.
the ones in here.
I just like quickly scan. I probably yeah. No, I think we can move forward. I have a
All right.
few highlights, but uh, yeah, let's go.
All right. And moving on to book 5, I have this quote here. Um, this is what's his name? So, Sochas Ruin
Mm-hmm.
talking to Riyadh, who
Mm-hmm.
is the offspring of Udnas and the dragon uh, Menendor.
Menandor. Yeah.
Yeah, Menendor. Yeah. So, and of course, Riyadh has power because of his ancestry, and so he's talking to him. He's saying, "I needed to take you away from Stavro Demolane, and now I have done so. This is what
Mm,
you must learn. The Eliant blood. I never know how to say that. Uh, the Eliant blood within you is a poison, dragon blood.
mm,
Um, I share it, of course. My brother and I chose it for ourselves. We perceived a necessity, but that is the fatal lure of power, isn't it? With the blood of Tiem within our veins, we could bring peace to Coral Galen. Of course, that meant crushing every house opposing us. Regrettable. Regrettable. Okay. But that sentiment was as far as the poison would permit us to go in our thoughts. The thousands who died could not make us hesitate, could not stop us from continuing killing thousands of more.
mm,
And of course, that brother he's talking about is Anamanda Rake.
mm-hmm.
And so you get a little peek here into what they made some kind of deal to get this power long, long, long time ago. Um, probably around the Carcanis time, which hasn't happened in the Carcanis trilogy yet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that the third book, whenever Erikson gets around to writing it, that he's got to answer.
Yeah.
um, because little hints like this about their past and what they did,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they killed thousands
Mm,
with this power, with this poisonous dragon blood.
mm,
And that was huge. And so just ruined having all that experience and knowing how horrible it was is trying to take this kid away from that so that he doesn't fall prey to the same poison in his veins. And it's kind of a noble gesture, um, after thousands of years of not being quite so noble, I guess,
yeah. Yeah. It and they brought peace to Kural Galen by killing thousands. The
Yeah.
the contradictions there too. Did it- so remind me of this. Sorry, so slightly different topic. Tiem is a female dragon, right? I thought for a long time that it
Yeah, I
was
think
a male dragon, but
she's the
yeah.
mother of all dragons, I believe.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Kinda like the dragon goddess.
I didn't realize that until I think pretty much the end of the Crippled God
Yeah,
when her gender is directly referenced.
right. Yeah, so that's it's pretty cool that you get that sense of history with, in a simple conversation of, "I'm just trying to protect you." And, so, that's getting it just came naturally, you know what I mean? It wasn't like
Yeah.
this forced exposition, It was, "I'm doing this, protect you because of this," and he's giving him the reasons. Um,
And we got a brief glimpse into this also, if I remember correctly, in Told the Hounds. There was a flashback to when Drake had just taken this power of Tiem and had shown up with coldness in his eyes and whatnot. And the way I remember that scene is that this just chaos broke out around him when he showed up, and wasn't entirely sure if he was causing the chaos or if people were just freaking out over what he had done. And
mm,
I think this is adding some additional context to that.
yeah, very much so, yeah. Very cool. Um, what else do I got here? Yeah, and so yeah, my note in here says, "I'm wondering when we're gonna see this in Carcana's trilogy."
Oh,
So
you haven't seen it yet? Okay.
no, not yet.
Okay. Hmm.
Spoiler. Uh, that's all right. So just so everybody knows out there, this is full of spoilers for the whole world. But Varsha is being spoiled now as we speak.
I
Um,
mean, you know what I think of spoilers, Jared.
yeah, yeah, not worried about it. Um, let's see. The next one I got here is one side crimson with blood, and Amanda Rake straightening to face the Hust Legion. The invasion has just begun, he told the waiting warriors. We risk being overwhelmed. Idulus drew a slow breath, jaws briefly clenching in pain. I shall wait for them beyond the rent to deny them the throne of shadow. This leaves the gate itself. Hust Legion, you shall march to the gate. You shall march through it. You shall take the battle to them and hold them there. And he scanned the rows of helmed faces. When the last of 5 of you remain, you must give your lives to sealing that wound. You shall, Hust armed and Hust armored forever, close Stavral Demoline. Uh, so this is history,
Hmm.
and it was this is the Stavral Demoline that's closed now that they're trying to break through the war on the shore, right? With
Hmm.
the people. What's their name? The Sheikh.
The shake, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what the Tis Leosin are breaking through
Hmm.
to invade that shore, to invade Carcanis that the Sheikh are defending, and this is history. And it's history that the new queen is seeing, I
Yes.
believe,
Yeah.
when she sits on the throne in
Hmm.
Carcanis,
Yeah.
and so it was very interesting history. It was interesting, it showed once again Anamander Rake in his much younger days, um, taking part in history at that time, which is you know which is always cool. I think I just love the references to the ancient history that we're getting in this book,
Yeah. They were some
because
of my
it's
favorites.
yeah, because it's so relevant, you know,
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
to the ending of the story here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we know that a lot of the Huss swords and stuff like that were lost, um, and one of the Sheikh um, has one.
Yeah.
He was it reforged, or was it, or did he just find it? I can't remember.
I think he just found it by the shore. He That's the brother of
Yeah, of
oh, I forget her name. I'm so
the
bad with
Sheik
names.
princess there.
Yes. Yeah. The one who would have been queen, I suppose.
Yeah,
The queen of the Sheikh. Yeah.
yeah. I can't remember her name, but or his.
Yeah.
But yeah, but and that was you know what's funny is it was a little confusing sometimes. I was the first time I read this, not the second time, but the first time I read it, I was always getting shake and snake confused. and and so but on my second time around it was much more clear who,
That's
who I was,
hilarious.
yeah, who I was who we were talking about, but
Yeah. I have troubles with names that start with the same letter. Like I'm reading a book where there's a Matt and there's a Mark, and I keep having to remind myself which is which. So yeah, I can see that confusion.
yeah.
Oh, brother is Yedan Derig, and the sister is Jan Torvis.
Ah, Jan
Yeah.
Tavis, yeah, right, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so moving on here, we have this line here. Um, Gruntle. Okay, so he's saying, "Haven't you guessed I'm going to fight? I'm going to bring your son down here and now. I'm going to kill the bastard and end to the god of slaughter, of horror, of rape." Uh, so my note here says he plans on ending the god that gives him power.
Hmm. He never wanted it in the first
He
place.
never, right, and he was speaking to Kalava, and I
So
couldn't quite remember who right now. Maybe at the time I remembered, but I couldn't quite remember who Kalava was.
oh, she is Ono Stulan's sister, the one
Uh,
who didn't go through with the ritual
that's
and
right. Yeah.
who married Onrak. Onrak, that's his name. Wow, I do remember some names.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Yeah. And it was just an interesting line to me that yeah, he didn't want this power. He never asked for it. He was granted it way back in Memories of Ice, right?
Hmm.
And and he's been pretty much because he was traveling with that guild for a while, the Targale Guild, you know, that
Yeah.
traveled between the Warrens
Hmm.
and took on contracts,
Hmm.
um, and and now he's attempting to he wants to kill the god who gives him his power, which ties in a lot with the themes that you know the people don't necessarily like their gods
Hmm.
in this whole series, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just interesting how that came about, you know.
Is what's her name? Is Treach Kilava's son? Is that what he's referencing here, or is it somebody else altogether? I guess I didn't remember that connection, but I'm going to bring your son down here and now.
Oh yeah, yeah, right, yeah. Drake,
Oh, Drake.
Drake, yeah,
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The what?
If Drake is your get, then you
Yeah.
have seen a child of yours kneel to war,
Uh.
as
This,
if war itself was a damn god.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes. Oh yeah. This whole conversation I think was brilliant. I'm vaguely recollecting it now. His the idea of gods of war. I think he protests against.
yeah. So that was pretty interesting. And the last note I have for this book is Sechel Lath.
Mm.
Uh, he says, I understand you now. Your real enemy is the master of the deck of dragons. Dragons who are warrens, all that new raw power, but you knew that you could not hope to match that master not so long as the gods and warrens remained dominant. So you devised a plan to kill it all. Um,
Hmm.
so this is he's speaking to Erastus.
Right.
Um, and I'm trying to remember why I highlighted this.
Is
Because they
it
were
the
talking.
piece of lore that we're getting here that dragons are warrants? I mean, I think we've been told that a few times at this point, but
Yeah. Um, yeah, they are warrens within themselves. Um, that's the level of sorcery that goes into a dragon.
mm,
Um, the and he mentions the holds as something different than the warrens, and because he says what makes you think the holds will somehow prove immune to the eye of abnegation, which that is a reference to the Ototaro dragon,
mm, yeah,
right?
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
that's gonna abnegation is going to, it negates sorcery.
Hmm.
And but the holds are elder, so he's hoping they'll be immune to that negation. The
Right.
same way that elders can still use magic around like an Ototaro sword or something like that.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, but pointing out, he's pointing out that his enemy is the master of the deck of dragons, who we all know is Paran. Um, and so it was once again you're seeing a mortal in contention with even elder gods, um,
Hmm.
and giving them a run for their money.
Yeah.
Uh, and we just saw that earlier with what's his name, with
Granted.
Gruntle,
Hmm.
and we're seeing that with with Paran scaring these elder gods. So it's I think it's just it accounts for the level of convergence that's happening now, that mortals are able to have this big of an effect upon these elders and these gods and these
Yeah.
these ascendants, and
Some
so
existential threats there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just thought it was a neat thing
Mm,
to point out there, because
yeah.
that these elder gods have been you know planning on the sidelines the whole
Mm,
time that we've been going through this.
yeah. And it's they would have been very powerful for their time, and they likely still are, but it's it's possible that their power hasn't dwindled so much as other people have, like the common level of power has increased perhaps.
Correct. Yeah, I believe that's true.
Mhm.
And he mentions later here that it was Cruel's
Mm.
bartering, who that's like the god of magic, right?
Mhm. Yeah, his
And
blood runs through the Warrens.
right, and he was his bartering with the Elite, the dragons,
Mm,
that made this mess that brought the Warrens into the realms and forced order upon the chaos of old magic.
mm.
So that's like some really ancient history there. That's really big,
Yeah.
big god history that the humans really probably don't know about that much.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I didn't remember the part that came after that. Uh, that crew chose a negator
Yep.
to. Uh, so I was I couldn't remember how the Otataru dragon originated. I thought um I don't know how this thought got in my head, and it's not true clearly because of this. But I thought the Otataral powder that they use might be like parts of the meteor that was the falling crippled god, and that's why it negates magic because it's not of this world. So it's able to negate the magic of this world. But I don't think that's true because he chose this dragon. But then, like, what is Otataral powder then? Is it anything that has touched her?
That's a good question, actually. I'm not. I don't remember because the Ototaro mines
Mm-hmm.
were way up on the the Seven Cities continent there.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I don't know how that place came about,
Yeah.
and it had something to do with that big jade statue or something like that.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
maybe that's why I thought of the and the jade statue is part of the cripple god, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Um, so that's why. That's why. Yeah, that's why. But it looks like um, Cruel selected one dragon among the Grand Clan to
Mm-hmm.
become the Negator, the Ototaro, while all others would chain themselves to aspects of magic that brought
Mm-hmm.
law to sorcery. So that's interesting. Who do you believe? That's the thing. Um,
Mm.
and we're getting this from you know s- what's his name's point of view, Setcholeth,
Mm-hmm.
his point of view, an elder god, and um, so that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know how the aspects of Ototaro got into those places that they got into and
Mm.
how they were able to make a sword. I wonder if somebody can answer that for us sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Add it to a list of questions. Maybe we can go to the Reddit forums or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I might be able to find it in there or the wiki or something.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so that's all I got for book 5, A Hand Upon the Fates.
Mm.
And anything else you might have from that section?
No, I think we can move on.
All right, moving on to book 6. All right, what do I got here? I got Sergeant Sinter. Observed this as she sat leaning against the wheel of the wagon they'd been guarding. The tremulous arrival of a child into every knot of soldiers seemed to have a strange effect upon them. Arguments fell away, glaring eyes faded, resentment sank down. The
Mm.
sleepless rolled onto their sides and surrendered to weariness. Pain was swallowed back, and those who sat weeping without tears eventually settled into silence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what? Oh, there's more. What gift was this? She did not understand. And when a soldier awoke in the closing of dusk and found curled at his or her side a small, still form, cool and pale in the dying light, she'd seen how the squad then gathered to set shards of crystal over the lifeless child, raising a glittering mound. And the soldiers would then cut fetishes free from their belts and harnesses, the bones they'd carried since Aaron, and set them upon the pathetic heap of rocks. So I think you mentioned this before we started when the Malazans met the snake,
Yes.
and
The
this
sorry.
was this was powerful. This was
Yeah. Yeah. That whole sequence, I think, when the snake meets the bone hunters, they when I forget the name of the kid, Badal, she thinks to herself as of Fiddler and Tavor as mother and father, and I think several mothers and fathers, right? That was a really striking moment because Badal feels so grown up throughout our read of this book. It's easy to forget that she's a child, but then when they do things like think like finally she gets some support and she's able to be a child again by calling them mother and father, like knowing that she's getting
Yeah.
um she's safe now. And when Fiddler goes around giving them water and she notices the tears in his eyes and she doesn't know what to make of it, I think all of them are weeping a little bit and she doesn't know what to make of it. And and then and then I think the third powerful bit, this of course what you highlighted, how they start taking care of the children when, like, they have been through hardship but the children have been through worse. and and then that scene where I think Breeze Pedict, I think, and all the leaders, Tavor and the Lostarael, they all see the children playing. They've forgotten how to play and they remember now that the other kid was collecting toys and they were playing with
Yeah.
it. And they're like, I'm going to go tell that story to everybody that they. And yeah, it was just the whole thing was so brilliant. And the scene where the snake met the bone hunters, I had to put the book down and cry a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, very powerful, and, yeah, this book is called 2 One in Chains, which is so appropriate, really,
Yeah,
because the Malazans were kinda in their own metaphorical chains trying to make it through this glass desert, and, of course, the snake, the children in the snake was kind of a long chain of children,
yeah,
and, um, them 2 meeting each other, some of those chains broke.
yeah.
A
Mm,
lot of things broke, and it's like she was saying, like, the children were finding their way into the soldiers, not just where they were, but into their minds and in their hearts and in their and they were, and they're wondering, "What are they doing to us?"
mm,
This isn't, this is it's not like a soldier going into a siege or going into a battle. This is nothing like anything they've encountered before. It's, totally new and devastating and heartbreaking, and, one of the her sister says, "They're killing us," but she's telling her, "You don't understand. You don't understand what's going on here." Um, and it's just so powerful, I thought. Just, the bone hunters are now giving up their bones for the children, and it's what a statement.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This, and it took what, a book and a half to set this up,
Yeah.
and it was excruciating following both of them, and to get this moment of release, I think, yeah, it was just something else. I've not read anything like it.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, definitely, like, one of the most powerful things I've ever read in my life, and, yeah, that's why this is my favorite book of all time, right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, what do I got next here? Draconus.
Mhm.
Oh, no, not Draconus, but somebody's saying, Animan the Rake is gone, but Draconus now walks the world. Do you see? Everything is answered. Um, who is saying that?
Some of the,
Who
let's
what did I
see.
let's see here.
Listen to me, Tavor Paran. Listen, it will be answered. So who's talking?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
is it the
talking to the
priest?
adjunct. Oh, is it the priest? Oh, is that Benisha
Yeah,
or no, Ruth?
Ruth and
No.
Ruth and Good. Yeah, yeah, that's the guy. Oh yeah, the sword made
Okay,
him
so
dead.
that's,
Mm-hmm.
everything is answered. Okay, so what I think he means by that is that when something happens in the world, there has to be an answer to it, you
Mm,
know?
mm,
Amanda Rake died, so now Draconus is back, you know?
mm,
Uh, you have this. You have a sword that's aspected in an Ototaro
Mhm.
sword, and that has to be answered. And
Mhm.
the dragons are coming back, and the Ototaro dragon cannot remain unchained. And so he's giving all these these back and forth things that everything has to be answered. Not that we have answers, but
Mm.
when something big happens, there has to be a um, there has to be a yin to the yang, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. It uh maybe it'll come up later in one of your highlights. I was curious. I don't remember what happened with the Otataru dragon. Like I'm seeing what's written here about how they if they kill it, they will end all magic, and I don't think that's what happens by the end of this book. Do they rechain her?
Ooh, it's been so long. I know something happened.
Yeah.
Um, did they rechain her or did they?
I don't remember. But we also get
It's
some POVs from her, which reflect a lot the Crippled God POVs a little bit. They resemble
Mhm.
that, both chained beings.
Yeah, yeah, we do. And I think something definitely happened. I don't know if they rechained her because I for some reason I remember her. I think they rechained her somehow.
Hmm.
Um, because I remember her not being killed. I don't think she was
Hmm.
killed.
Yeah. I definitely don't think she was killed, but I don't remember what happened. Maybe we'll find out through some of your highlights.
Yeah. Well,
Good.
hopefully
Hmm.
I pointed that out. Um, let's see. Next, I got no, and he pointed to
Yeah,
Bedal and
this is the
said,
one.
"I will go among the troops to stay adjunct, for I have a story to tell. Two children, a sack of toys." Yeah, this is the toy thing you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and this is this is the when the Talanamas showed up.
Hmm. And they're like, we're gonna give you water and don't worry about it. And they do end up with water though. Something works.
Yes. Uh that was the kind of the shaved knuckle um that bug
Bottle?
bug
Oh, bug. Yes.
gave the adjunct that dagger
Hmm.
that gave her the means to summon water and she had to wait for the absolute worst moment or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was a great scene later on. But this was just a little touching thing about the children and the toys. But you had brought that up earlier,
Yeah.
um, and and my note there was like we're finally given a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Some
Like after
reprieve.
all this stuff that's been going on since the beginning of Dust and Dreams, we're finally given
Yeah.
a little hope.
Yep.
Yeah. Next I got, let's see who's speaking here. Um, and let's face it, humanity without humility is a dangerous force. Don't know why I'm thinking as if I'm seeing the future, but that's how it feels. Some future time when sorcery does too much, when it solves all our problems, only to invent new ones. If this is to be the real future, I don't want it. That's who is that? He's speaking to Captain Shirk Allow. Is that like her
Hmm. The undead thief.
her skills? Watch the jagged approach.
Hmm. That seems like a really intensely serious thought for Ella,
Oh, that is
wondering
Shirk
what's
Allow.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that is Shirk Allow thinking that.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's one to talk. But what I felt about that section highlight is that that's kind of how people feel about technology today too. You
Hmm.
know, is technology going to solve all our problems, only to
Yeah.
invent new ones? And a lot of people don't want that. They don't want that future to come about. So I just thought that that was like just a kind of a little, uh, you know, relation to our modern problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the lines preceding this too. I think she, at the beginning of the paragraph, suddenly the seas had become uninteresting, as if all her skills, and possibly it was the same with her crew, all their skills had become irrelevant.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, right. Because
yeah.
the ship she's on is just being sailed by Hood's power, by death,
Mm,
by the Jagged's power, and she's not even doing anything. And she's like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm irrelevant." And that also speaks to some technology today, taking over things, jobs maybe that make people irrelevant, and people feel irrelevant. And
Yeah.
so that's yeah, it was an interesting commentary there. I kind of like that.
Yep. Definitely.
And let's see. Yeah. Next, I have, why did I believe my freedom was worth anything? Why did I imagine that I had the right to choose my destiny or choose to deny it? Who's speaking here? Let's see here. Oh, this is the queen. Uh, Jan. We said her
Torvis.
name earlier.
Yeah. Jan Torvis.
Jan Torvis. Yeah. Um, yeah. She resisted for a long time.
Hmm.
Her mantle, her destiny, so to speak. And her brother was always mad at her because of that.
Yeah.
um, and because he was the one who grasped a hold of his destiny full. He was in it from the
Hmm.
start. Um, even like earlier in, was it in Dust of Dreams when he killed all the witches?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you thought he was the worst person in the world, and but he was kind of right in a way, because he actually ended up being the whole hero of that whole defense of the shore there,
Yeah.
and you ended up kind of rooting for him, even though you couldn't stand what he did.
Yeah.
And she was, the whole time, she was not willing to put throw all her marbles in, basically, to grasp that destiny, to really get, I think, more power to help her people.
Hmm.
She wanted to do it without having to be forced into doing it. And now she's questioning that. She's questioning, what right did I have to do that? What right did I have to not choose my destiny or deny my destiny and what have you? So I
Yeah.
thought it was just an excellent character moment in her head about what we believe in and what we're fighting for and stuff like that. And
Hmm. Yeah. The lines following that too. That only slaves, the ones who surrender their lives into the hands of others, only the defeated need. But now I would do it to save my people. This
right.
pitiful remnant.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's more powerful moments in that huge horrible
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah. The the shore, it was interesting. I don't remember at what point we find out, but the watch the Yedan Derek's title is the Watcher of the Shore, right? And we think up to, I think, a long way through Dust of Dreams, maybe through all of it, that it means watching the actual seashore and whether it's going to breach so that they need to move. And that was his job at the time that they were living in that world. But once they came to Karkanis, the shore is the shore of light,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
where time seems frozen. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was brilliant. Yeah.
Very, yeah. Light, brilliant. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't even trying to do that.
It's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Wow, I got a lot of notes in this one. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
Namander could not even imagine the will that had denied such a gift. above Pale, he could have killed Tayshrin.
Mm,
He's talking about Animator
mm,
Rake. Corlat had said as much. He could have flown down from Moon Spawn, Selena at his side, and brought fire and devastation to the Malazans. The sudden descent of terror from the skies, scattering the enemies, shattering the opposition arrayed against him. So I found that interesting because we're getting a throwback way back to Gardens of the Moon,
mm.
at the Battle of Pale. And, when we first saw that Battle of Pale in Gardens of the Moon, we were like, wow, look at Tayshrin and all that power.
Yeah.
And, and now this guy is just saying, yeah, he could have just flown down and killed them all. And it's like,
Rain
oh,
terror
okay.
upon them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the paragraph before that is saying that Rake did not give in to the power of the poisoned blood in him, the
Mm,
dragon within. He didn't give in to it. He didn't surrender to it.
mm. Yeah, makes sense. And this was, I'm trying to remember, at what point does Nimander turn into a dragon? That's in Told the Hounds, right? Or is it
Um,
in this book?
I don't. He does do it in this book
Mm.
when they go into battle, but he already had the ability, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it, the reveal about his ability, I'm trying to remember. I think it was in Told the Hounds when that guy who was leading them into the war and leading them to where
Oh,
Rake
right.
was. I forget his name too, but the one with the chain, keychain, and um,
Yeah, yeah, Chip. Yeah,
Chip. Yeah, yeah, Chip. I guess yes. Uh,
or Clip. Is it Clip?
Clip.
Clip. Yeah,
Mm.
maybe that's it.
I think to be give give him some form of punishment. I think is when he turns, if I remember correctly. But anyway, sorry. Side thought. We can move on.
Yeah, no, yeah, and yeah, so that's it's a different point of view though on the Battle of Pale.
Yeah. Yeah.
What could have been? Why did
Mm-hmm.
he hold back? He didn't want to give in to the hunger, the dragon hunger,
Mm-hmm.
the blood, and you wonder what kind of willpower Rake had at that moment not to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. And all the others, blind to all that surrounded him. Oh, will not one of you look up? Look up and see those who have witnessed all that you have done. See how they honor you. But no, they are past such things now, past them.
Mm. Yes.
What was this? This was
Think this was when the battle ends, and if I remember correctly, the Tistandi show up and they all kneel in honor of the Sheikh. And this was another put my book down and cry a little bit.
yes, that's right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And the Sheikh are just too devastated, too worn out, too beat up in order to even
Yeah.
acknowledge the honor that the Taisandi are giving them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, another powerful section.
Yeah. Definitely. And this also, it builds and builds and builds with those battle scenes in between and
Yeah.
everything that happens. It's
Yep.
such a release.
Yeah, right. It is. Let's see here. He will come in search of the fallen. Like a newborn child, he will come in search of the fallen.
Who?
That is who? Who will come in search of the fallen? Is this oh, this is one
This
of
Badal.
Badal's
Yeah.
songs here.
Mm.
And he's talking about Kamensod.
Mm.
She's talking about the crippled god. Uh and I found that interesting that because, at the end of the book we find out that, Kamensod is the one telling this whole story. He's
Mm.
writing the Book of the Fallen. And so um and now we're getting a little snippet of that. We're getting a glimpse of that. That he's that Kamensai will be coming in search of the fallen, like a newborn child almost. And that is kind of what happens when the crippled god comes down to earth at the end, and he's, his heart's there. He's back. His pieces are there or whatever, and
Mm.
he's manifested as something that what's his name can kill, and but he's like a newborn child when that happens. So it's a little bit of almost a little bit of prophecy here by Badal and her song,
Mm.
and I just was like, oh wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And we have nostalgia was like a disease, one that crept in and stole the color from the world and the time you lived in, made for bitter people, dangerous people when they wanted back what never was.
Oh, yes.
That's just a cool, you know, statement in and of itself.
Yes, and they want back what never was.
Yeah.
Yes, that resonates with a lot of current events.
Yeah. That that actually that's not just current events, but events throughout our whole lives really.
Yeah,
Nostalgia's always something that is dangerous in and of
yeah.
itself.
Mm.
Yeah. So I just like that little piece
Mhm.
of philosophy there. I'm not even sure who was thinking it, but
Yeah, there's no name on this page.
Cuddle's brothers. Oh, is it Cuddle?
Oh, no, I'm trying to remember who Cuttle is. Oh, I guess one of the
Yeah, it
bone
is Cuddle.
hunters.
He's one of the bone hunters. Yeah, yeah, one of Fiddler's friends.
Mm.
And then finally in this book we have, and she stepped forward then, that old woman, that mother with her last ever child, this stranger, and gently laid her baby into Rut's wait. Ah, this was a killer.
Oh, yes.
Uh, Rut's waiting arms, a gift beyond measure. And when she settled an arm about his shoulders, drawing him forward so that he could walk with them, he and her and her husband, and they set out slowly, as it was all she could manage, in the wake of the nearest wagon, and all the convent began to move, Badal still unmoving. Um, but this was one of the kids, Rut,
Yeah,
whose arms were kind of like permanently
yeah,
in
because he
that
was.
position because he held that dead baby for so long,
Yeah.
and they finally took it away from him, and then they somebody else um, gave him a new baby basically
Hmm.
to hold, and that was just like that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I remember the line, I think it was the opening line of the prologue for Dust of Dreams. When he picks up the baby, he names it Held, and
yes,
it
yeah,
says there was no hardship in this. And he basically carried the baby even when she died eventually,
oh, the whole time,
the whole way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so this part was like, yeah, this is another put the book down moment,
Yeah.
you know. We just had to like,
Yeah. Too
lots of
many, too
emotions.
many feelings.
Yeah, lots of emotions running wild.
Yeah.
All right, and so anything else from book six you can think about without tearing up too much?
No, I think yeah, these powerful moments, the most powerful moments for me, like even more than the ending, if I'm being honest, with the crippled god, were when the snake and the bone hunters meet and the battle on the shore ends and the Tistandi all kneel to honor the sheikh. I think those those were my favorite bits throughout. And I think the other powerful moment in the whole series that maybe matches up to these is Memories of Ice with Itkovian and the Tilanamas.
Sure.
But these potentially beat even that out, and that was a legendary epic moment. So yeah,
Yeah, it's it's like when you read Memories of Ice, like you're like, how can he top that? But
yeah.
then he does. It,
Multiple times over. Yeah.
yeah, and because this is like, this is my second time reading this,
Hmm.
and it did the same thing.
Hmm.
It wasn't lessened because I had read it
No.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. And more powerful for knowing that it's coming, right? Yeah.
Almost, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, on to book 7, Your Private Shore. That's
Hmm.
what it's called, which is a very another very apt title. I love his titles. They're the best. Um, this section says, "I will do what you ask, rather I shall try. Pieces of me remain missing, and I despair of ever seeing them again. It is my understanding that the one named Skinner, usurper and tyrant king of my house of chains, has many enemies. He can now count me among them. Do you imagine he loses sleep? No, I don't either. Betrayers never do. Shadow Throne, you will not betray me, will you?" There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah. Please
um,
do.
this is the Crippled God speaking,
Hmm.
and he, the pieces of him that remain missing, as from that, because he's been spread out all across the world, and I just found that fascinating because Skinner's story is one of the focuses of Blood and Bone, of
Mm.
Esselmont's book Blood and Bone, his best book, in my opinion, and that story is outstanding. So I can't wait for you to get to it whenever you do.
Okay.
But but um but pieces of the Crippled God are in that book as well, and there's a storyline involved that revolves around that as well in that book. And so I just highlighted that because I was like, "Oh, that's so cool," because I read about that before,
Mm.
and and it just gives you a little hint of that. And of course, asking Shadow Throne if you're not going to betray him. I mean, we know it happens, but it was just like, it, how can you feel bad for the guy who this whole series you've been kind of rooting against,
Mm.
at least in the first 5 books, definitely, right?
Yeah, the crippled god painted as a bit of a villain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Even yeah.
but at this point, he's going to get betrayed. Even if you've never read this before, you should be
Mm.
able to kind of guess
Yeah.
here that it's not going to go well.
Hmm.
And so there was just so much to unpack in that statement. I was just like, geez,
Yeah.
wow, there's a lot going. That's
Yeah.
great. And Skinner, of course, was he usurped his house of chains, the king of the house
Mm.
of chains, and that kind of gets brought up in Blood and Bone as well. But of course, we know he usurped it from Karsa Olong,
Mm.
who denied getting,
Mm.
you know, denied working with the Cripple God.
I see. The Shadow Throne. What was Shadow Throne's involvement in all of this? I was Tavor working at his and Cotillions' behest.
Um, yes, the Shadow Throne and Cotillion are the ones who set up this situation, basically, that where the Cripple God could be summoned back to Earth, manifested as a flesh and blood creature, um, so that they could betray him, and Cotillion ended up killing him, the god of assassins, appropriately enough.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this was part of their plan to set that up. A lot of things went wrong along the way, so it took a lot longer for it to actually happen than what they planned. Because if you notice, there's been a lot of sections in the previous 9 books
Mm.
where Shadow Throne and Cotillion would get together and say, "Well, that didn't go well. Well, all right, back to the drawing board," you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so there's been
Is
a
it
lot of
also
that.
in Esselmon's books too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're in those too.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if some of this planning happens in Esselmon's books and that's why I missed it, or if I just like missed it from these 10 books that is it
They
just vague hints or is it
It's
explicitly
just vague
mentioned?
hints
Yeah.
throughout the whole
Okay.
series. They don't ever actually tell anybody. They tell people to do certain things,
Mm,
and you might wonder why,
mm,
but when you get to the end of this book, that's
mm.
why, you know?
Okay.
Um, but yeah, they never actually tell us. They don't, because if you think about it, he didn't know. Kamasan didn't know.
Mm, mm.
Kamasan. So we're not gonna know because Kamasan is basically telling the story,
Yeah.
you
Fair.
know? And so
And he so they helped free the crippled god, right? Or they didn't want to chain him again. There was going to be another rechaining and they said no, enough with that, let's release him. Is that what they wanted to do?
yeah,
Or yeah, okay,
yeah.
okay. Yes.
Let's put them together. That was part of that's why it was so significant for the master of the deck to include the cripple god as part of the deck
I
because
see.
it reined him in and
Mm,
made him less of an outsider so that he could be affected more by all the by the rules of magic, so to speak.
mm,
And so that's why that was significant that Paran made that choice to include the cripple god as part of the deck.
mm.
Probably, I imagine if you look close somewhere, there may be a whisper in his ear from somebody to
Oh.
do that. Maybe it was Opon, maybe it was Cotillion. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'm not sure,
Mm.
but
Okay.
um,
I thought I thought he I mean my recollection is that Quick Pen told him play make him play by the rules. That's
yeah,
the problem right
that was
now.
quick. Maybe it was
Yeah.
Quick Ben, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Quick Ben's been a part of this the whole time,
Mm,
and Quick Ben. There was so many times where Quick Ben was looks like he was working against Shadow Throne.
mm.
Um, but was he?
Yeah.
He's a slippery dude, so I don't know,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
whose perception was it that we were getting that he was working against Shadow Throne? Or maybe that he was just trying to piss him off, but still working with him. So it's
Yeah.
very complicated there. Yeah, a lot to take in. Um,
Mhm.
let's see. Next, um, somebody was reminding Genoa's Paran about Pale.
Mhm.
I don't remember why.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't there yet. Um, they were
Mm,
trying to make sense of things about Pale,
mm.
and it was just another reference to
The
Gardens of the
beginning.
Moon and
Mhm.
how, looking back, how important that first book is when you when you first read it, you just don't know. And
Mhm.
it's this stuff gets referenced again and again. And yeah, they talk about sorry sticking the dagger in his back about then and stuff like that. So um I just love all the references to the beginning of the series.
Yeah. Makes sense. And Quick Ben is essentially saying here that we're we're all going to meet again. Like we're trying to make sense of things and we're all going to meet again. So basically saying that whatever started there is coming to an end here, which also the series is.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Also, seeing this mention of sorry, Apsala isn't in this book, right? Or if she is, I don't remember where she ends up.
Yeah, I don't remember Crocus and her being in this book at all.
Yeah. Do they have something in Esselmon's
They
books?
were definitely in, well, they were in Toll the Hounds, definitely, but,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think I'm just trying to remember if they're in Orb Scepter the Throne. I don't remember, though.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
I
I don't
think
remember
that's
where she ended up, but
yeah, I think Crocus is still on Genabacchus, but,
mm-hmm.
let's see, we got, after all oh, this is one of the folk rule of sale. After all, is not his creed the very antithesis of our own? The flawed, the helpless, and the hopeless, daring to stand before holy perfection. So they're talking about the Crippled God, the fallen one,
Mm-hmm.
and um, they're they don't stand the folk rule of sale. You're just getting a little look into how they see things. They consider themselves perfect and they consider themselves unflawed, and they even have rankings within their society that uh, tells them how pure they are. You got the
Yeah.
pures, you got the watered, like watered down, and what are the other ones? You got um, yeah, the different tiers, the lesser assail, and the lawful inquisitors, and so they have this very tiered society where they look down on imperfection as they see it. Um, and of course, the Crippled God is all about
Mm.
imperfection and chaos and none of what he represents perfection at all.
Yeah.
And so I like the contrast there. That's all.
Yeah. No, I like that too.
And then yes, I like this part there. Tohol fears we will not see each other again. For all its mundane silliness, he came as close to saying goodbye as anyone could without using the word itself. And so, as you perhaps can now imagine, I miss him. I miss him dearly. And that was a very emotional
Mm.
section too, when Briss is talking about his brother,
Yeah.
and I just that was another one of those sections that's just like very emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole having a serious moment.
Yeah, and well, that was Briss having the moment, but because he was referencing when Tohol said didn't say goodbye, but said
Mm.
goodbye in his own way when Briss left,
Yeah. Yeah.
because he expects to die. Briss does,
Yeah.
yeah. And all right, we got now that is the question, isn't it? When he is done killing the elder gods, he feels he should be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Will pause. He will ask himself the question, "What now?" And then perhaps it will come to him the fullest recognition of Animander's gift. And that was in reference to the question, does Dragonus understand?
Mm.
Um, let's see, he forces.
Is it about?
Oh, and Animander would force the wounds to heal. The arrogance of the man. Uh,
Yeah.
but this had to do with Animander and Hood's plan, basically,
Mm-hmm.
to free Dragonus. At some point, Animander came to the realization that his sword, was not a good thing, and
Mm.
and him and Hood had a plan.
Mm.
Of course, he ended up killing Hood
Yeah.
as part of the plan, but putting him into the sword,
Mm-hmm.
and then he forced um, Dassam Ulta
Mm-hmm.
to kill him,
Mm.
and because he didn't have to do that, he didn't have to sit there in a street and fight with him
Yeah.
with a sword,
Mm-hmm.
which is, of course, the first, the Dassam Ulta's, that's his thing. He
Yeah.
was the greatest sword fighter ever. Uh, so Rake didn't have to do that. He could have flown up, turned into a dragon, and just breathed fire on him or whatever. Multiple means of
Yeah.
sorcery to deal with the situation. But and so the fact that he chose to sit there and sword fight with him, and Altor begged him. This was all in Told the Hounds for people who don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Altor begged him not to fight with him like that, but he did anyways. So it was all part of the plan, and
Mm.
that's what they mean by his gift.
Mm.
So
The release of Draconis.
yeah,
So is it that he will get to go join up with Mother Dark, be together with her again?
that's a good question. Does he want to?
And
Um,
is that why he killed him in the first place? Because he mother he Draconis is Mother Dark's consort, right?
Consort, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you read the Carcanis trilogy, he's oh, I lost Varsha for a second here. Um, folks, so when you read the Carcanis trilogy, uh, this is spoilers. Oh, there we go. She's back.
Sorry, I did something stupid while trying to unmute myself. I don't know how I got exited out. There is nothing here that would make me leave the studio. Anyway, let's go.
Um, yeah, so in the Carcanis trilogy, you're going to find that Draconis doesn't have a very good light shine on his shown on him.
Mm,
He's kind of a jerk.
interesting.
So, um, and so you start to see in the first two books of that trilogy that there's a lot of tension brewing
Mm,
between him and Andamander, and so I'm so eager for the third book to find out more about what happens there, but or how this all came about to get to this point,
yeah,
of the
very nice.
yeah,
Yes.
I can't wait. I really can't wait. But so that's still just ruining friends talking about his brother,
Mm-hmm.
and we got ah, but Paran was frowning. Why didn't that demon tear you to pieces, Kalam? The assassin looked away, shrugged. Met it before, did it a favor. Maybe, I think, can't remember exactly, but it was back in the Seven Cities, the middle of the whirlwind, things happened. Of course, that's a reference to House of Chains,
Mm,
where
yeah.
he met that demon, right?
Mm-hmm. But I don't recall what demon was this.
Um, Kalam he met that demon, and I can't remember when it was. I don't remember the exact thing in House because it was a small section of House of
Mm-hmm.
Chains,
Mm-hmm.
but he was in the desert and he was in this place. And I think he set it free
Mm,
from wherever it was. It was like trapped under some rocks or something. I don't know.
okay.
And I just I just like I always love the references to earlier events,
Mm, yeah.
that are significant now, because the you know, they ask him why didn't the demon tear him to pieces, and there's a reason, so that they encountered this demon earlier in the book. Either was a few. sections earlier, or what have you. And I think it was one what they're calling a demon. I think was one of the watered down assail.
Oh,
Um,
I see.
the
Okay.
same way that Karsa Orlong encountered a demon, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
when that kind of beat up him and his brothers when it took off
Yeah.
early in House of Chains,
Mm-hmm.
and so those were like Fork Rule of Sale were they were sprinkled throughout the books here and there to get leading up to this major confrontation with them at the end. Um, and so it's just another example of that and how it all comes about to the end here.
Makes sense. Yeah. I like the ending. That I leave the endlessly flapping mouth to you, wizard. Clearly a wise decision, but next time just summarize.
Yeah, yeah. Well, their relationship is just hilarious. Uh, let's see here. Hear my cries. What does this mean?
See the darkness, hear my cries. To Mother Darkness.
Yeah, I think this was one of those things I didn't quite understand what was going on.
Hmm. Oh. Oh, this
Oh,
is the Otatara dragon.
yes, the Ototaro dragon.
And
Speaking
she's
to
crying
his
through
mother.
Tiem.
Yeah, because Tiam's the mother of all dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, actually, yeah, this is when the storms ripped into her. The storms tore her hide, rent her wings. I think she did die. We were asking that earlier, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
No, but
yeah,
they okay, I remember a little bit. So a bunch of dragons attack her to kill her, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
then that's the point at which oh god, the son of the guy, Udinas, Riot,
Riyadh, yep.
he yeah, he wears into his dragon form. I think he and Silkus Ruin together fight off several of the dragons that are about to kill the Otateral dragon,
That's right.
and they end up saving her from what I remember. And is she free though after that, or do they have to rechain her?
Good question.
And also, I think based on this, they chained her just because she's just a lonely creature, kind of like the crippled god, to uh being used for her own purposes. So maybe if they left her alone, she would just go off into a corner and not bother anybody. But I
I
don't
don't know.
think they rechained her though. That wouldn't quite work with what else is happening with the crippled god. But
Maybe we'll find out.
yes, maybe there will be more revealing highlights.
uh, let's see here. Long ago, Diligence said, having one, that we created a Barghast army to serve us.
Hmm.
They sought to emulate the folk rule assail in appearance, electing to bleach the skin of their faces. And of course, I just like that because that was like, wait a minute, these folk rule assail were they're one of the ancient races, and they were created a Barghast army to
Mm.
serve us. So are they saying that they help create humans?
Mm.
You know, and or do they just capture a bunch and make an army out of
Yeah,
them or something like that?
that
But
seems more likely. Yeah.
that makes sense because they have the power to compel people to do things, to
Hmm.
obey their orders. So, um, but that was interesting that they because we it's a reference to the white face Barghast,
Mm.
um, and so that means that's like a little piece of history about them that we didn't know before when we encountered them way back in Memories of Ice and what have you.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of it's not that it's one of those historical things that you kind of don't want to know about that.
Yeah.
uh, you know, but I just found that really interesting.
Yeah, it is. The Kundal burnt tears, they are not they're not Bargast, right? They are something else.
The who?
The burnt tears,
The Buruntias? I
Mhm.
think they're no, the Kundral were from that continent, Lether. There was
Okay.
a section um, called the Kundral Plains or something like that,
Hmm. Okay.
I believe. But it's not the map's not in this book. But
Mhm.
and let's see here. We got. I am here, Malazan, seeking a war. Yet only now do I realize that I have walked in shadow all this time since I first rose from the dust outside the city of Pale. I thought I was abandoned. Each time I sought a new path, the shadow followed me. The shadow found me, as it must. I am the first sword of the Talanamas, and from this there is no escape. This is Tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool. That was another cool throwback, right? To
Yep.
Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah, another cool throwback and another you know, piece of the story of Tool. And he says there's no escape, but as we know now, the end of the book, he kind of does escape. So
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
yeah, but it was cool that he joined the Malazans at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and helped them out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have next. If it's come on, click. Oh, all right. My Kindle is stalling right now. Um, all right, so I'm gonna pause it real quick.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Excellent. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Next we have this is no sending. He is here. The god Fenner is here,
Mm.
and this was oh boy,
Sister Reverence.
a god has been summoned. Now this had something to do with the jade, right?
Mm.
Didn't it? Who summoned Fenner? I can't remember.
Yeah, me neither. Was it Sharkilalan group or the Grey Swords? No, their god is the wolf. But they are also gods of war.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't remember this.
it has yeah, the towering columns, Bruce Bloom greens, the flashes of lightning. A god has been summoned. Because then at some point the god like died, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his blood rained on everybody. Um,
Oh, that's
and
right.
Object
Yeah.
of Dusk.
Dominating
I
Venta.
forget. I forget who actually was able to summon the god Fenner,
Mm-hmm.
and that's bugging me because I know it was very important.
Mm.
Oh, it was Karsa Orlong
Oh,
when
that's right.
he destroyed the altar.
Mm.
He entered the temple of Fenner and he destroyed the altar and um, he smashed it through the tusk and then continued on, cracking the altar stone with the sound of thunder,
Mm.
shattering the block in half. And that's when Or that's when he killed the god, I think.
Hmm.
I gotta remember that.
Like Fenner's finally dead, or
Yeah, because when Fenner died, because that's when when Fenner's blood rained down on the area, that's when the Talana Mas was suddenly mortal again.
Mm, I
And
see.
Tool was like, bad timing. And
Yeah.
so I think when Karsa shattered when he destroyed the altar, that's when the god died. But I don't remember correctly. I'm not sure. Not sure, 100% sure.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, this was just funny, going your way, Hood. Next time you see a face, bite it off. That was just because when they saw him fight before, they saw him biting people's heads off and shit. So,
Oh yeah.
and then Hood, at this point, when Hood takes off to go after the folk rule sale, the spire there.
That was a hilarious scene when Hood shows up and is like eats the guy.
Yeah. Let's see here. It is not enough to wish for a better world for the children. It is not enough to shield them with ease and comfort. Lostara yield. If we do not sacrifice our own ease, our own comfort, to make the future's world a better one, then we curse our own children. We leave them a misery they do not deserve. We leave them a host of lessons unearned.
Mm.
Once again, I forget who said that. Was it the adjunct?
Uh, wonder
Yeah,
if.
because she says, "I'm no mother, but I only need to look at Hanavat to find the strength I need."
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the adjunct speaking to Lostara
Mhm.
Yiel, her,
Mm.
bodyguard there. Um,
Yeah.
and it was just, I thought, a very poignant
Mhm.
statement, and having to deal with. Of course, they just got through this ordeal with the children, and she's making a point of it, of why they're doing what they're doing, basically.
Mhm.
And next we have the Worm of Autumn. Oh, I am Demodric, the Worm of Autumn magic. Perhaps she hears you through me. Perhaps in the end we can teach Drek a lesson in faith.
Mm.
And that's interesting because Drek is one of those elder gods,
Mm.
and this guy has he's a priest of that god, uh, Banishar, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
and he's been working with the adjunct the whole time, really. Um, but I found that this reference to the Demidrek and the Worm of Autumn interesting because um, Tashrin is from that place where Drek is worshipped, and he was actually a follower of Drek when his youth, and that is detailed in Esselmont's prologue books, The Paths to Ascendancy.
Mm.
Um, so you learn about Drek quite a bit in those books. So it was interesting seeing that pointed out here.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very cool, him. And this right here, Ruth and Good making a statement about fighting 3 links from Greymane on the wall, and that is directly referencing to Stonewielder,
Mm.
where you learn a little bit about Ruth and Good, whatever his name is, and
Mhm.
you learn a lot about Greymane in Stonewielder.
Okay.
Greymane was a former fist of the Empire who's kind of hiding out. and he he also has like one of those magic swords that are powerful or something like that. Or one of those weapons. I can't remember what the weapon was actually, uh, but so you find a lot about them in Stonewielder. So it's kind of funny that these guys are just kind of mentioned here, and you don't really know. Like, just if you just read the main 10 books, you don't really know much about them. I mean, what did you know about them?
Nothing.
Right.
Other than
uh,
they seem important, and I don't know why.
yeah, and and they talk about the storm riders down below, and
Mhm.
who they serve, so that they're talking about all that stuff, and all that stuff you don't know about unless you've read Stonewielder
Yeah, yeah.
and a little bit of Return of the Crimson Guard, but mostly in Stonewielder,
Mhm.
which did come out before this book did. But
I see.
so interesting.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. A figure line closest. Okay, so a broken, deformed man, the crippled god. Heavy chains pinned him to the ground. We'll never break those, not with that sword. We've done nothing but make him more vulnerable than he has ever been. Now he can truly be killed. Perhaps that's a mercy. That is Fiddler doing that thinking. Probably the most if you had to pick a character who's the series is the main character,
Mhm.
probably Fiddler. It's hard to do that with the series, but
Yeah.
um, but
And
I
there's a
think he's in all the books, right?
I think so, yes. Except
Well, not Midnight
Midnight
Tide, but
Tides, yeah.
yeah,
There's a conversation between Paran and Quick Ben, if I remember correctly, about who the two people who are most likely to succeed in whatever their quest is. And Paran says Tavor because she won even the battles that they lost. Like she replayed the
yeah,
battles that were lost and she won them, and she has never lost anything that she set out to win. And Fiddler, Quick Ben says, is the best of the bridge burners.
yeah,
So the two of them working together, very low chance of failure.
yeah, yeah. And that's but that little line there is kind of a hint at the what's to come.
Mm,
Now he can truly be killed. Perhaps that's a mercy. Was that also part of Cotillion's thinking when he did kill him? That he's performing a mercy,
mm,
you know?
possibly.
Uh, possibly, yeah, yeah. And it was just interesting that Fiddler's talking to this god who's been such a focus of this whole series this whole time, but was never really, um, it's the whole story is being told by him, but you don't know that until the end, and
Mm,
you don't really ever have this kind of interaction with him before, other than in Midnight Tides. No, other than Reaper's Gale,
mm,
with Casa Olong, but even that was in like a Warren or something. It wasn't.
yeah.
It's just so it was just a really cool section.
Mhm.
Um, and then just a little further down, I wish I could understand. So, um, even the cripple god doesn't understand everything that's going on here,
Mm,
and I think that was the impetus for him to record the Book of the Fallen, was to try to understand
mm.
mortals, try to understand humans,
Yeah.
and figure out what makes them tick. Um, and he says, "You're going to die for me, a foreign god," and Fiddler explains to him why humans are, who they are,
Mm. Yeah.
and it was just a really, really cool conversation between those
Mm-hmm.
two, and really elevated Fiddler as like one of my favorite characters ever.
Mm-hmm. To us, all gods are foreign gods.
Yeah, and this was Calm, the folk ruler Sale,
Mm-hmm.
speaking to somebody, saying that I think she's about to die, and she's saying, "You freed me," and then she realizes it wasn't the person she thinks it is. She thinks it is. It was Casa Olong that freed her. That's the one Casa freed way back in House of Chains.
Mm.
Uh, Somebody else is killing her there. I don't remember who it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Is it
didn't. I
is it
didn't
Mappo?
remember that
Mappo,
incident.
I think. Right?
Oh, maybe. Oh.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and so it was just once again another reference to an earlier book that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, Herb finally told Helene he loved her. That was just funny. That was just
Yeah. Yeah. It was very cute.
yeah, it was cute.
You idiots! The enemy's advancing. Get off me.
Yeah, that was just funny. I love
Yeah.
that part. It's like this whole time when Herb, because he's always had those big doubts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, very funny. And once again, that whole thing about no one will notice. I will heed your deaths. I will remember.
Mm.
Um, that is
Crippled God.
that whole thing about, yeah, it's a cripple god
Mm.
saying he will remember, and that kind of relates to the whole thing about Tavor saying we will be unwitnessed and stuff when she gave that
Mm.
speech way back
Yeah.
in was it Reaper's Gale or something, and
Mm.
um and so he's the cripple god himself is saying, no, I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
You will not be unwitnessed. And so it was once again, things are turning around. We're starting to like this guy. And we got the adjunct reined in
Mhm.
again at the very center and swung her horse round to face the silent troops. On the day of the Naruk, they stood for you. Today here you shall stand for them, and I shall stand with you, my beloved soldiers. She held up a gauntleted hand. Say nothing. We are walls of silence, you and me. We are perfect reflections of the one we face, and we have faced each other for so long now.
Mhm.
Um, and that was once again when she just said you were unwitnessed, but I've seen what you see.
Mm.
Um, so that's another one of her speeches. That
Mm.
is saying no matter what history says, we're doing what we have to do for us.
Yeah. I like Tower speeches. The few
Yeah,
times she talks, she makes a lot of sense.
the few times, right? Yeah, yeah, and I put a note. I had tears on this section again. So yeah, very emotional.
So much crying over one book.
Um, over one book, yeah. Kundrel, a word for his fading heart, a song for his ending life. Coltane, I shall stand before you. We shall ride with your Wiccans. I see crows over the ancestral hills. Oh, that's who the Kundrel were. They
Mm.
were the Wiccans
Yeah.
that came with them down there.
Mhm.
That was just another reference to Coltane
Mhm.
from way back in Dead House Gates. So I like how that thread was continued here.
Yeah.
More tears, yeah. And
And
then
then yet more tears.
and then this one,
Oh,
Tavor
Tavor.
telling Ganos that she lost her sister.
Hmm.
That most tears.
Yeah.
That's what I put there. Yeah, that was like devastating, just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
devastating. Um, yeah, enough said there. That was very emotional.
It was.
And let's see here, Crippled God. I will remember this. I will set out scrolls and burn upon them the names of these fallen. So right there, that's the book.
Mm.
That's the name of the whole book. uh, that's kind of. I'm gonna write this right now. That's
I'm gonna
very
make
cool.
a holy dome.
Yep. And then we get this little note here.
Hmm.
This elder god, male, talking to Heberic, that he must awaken from this dream. You must free your hands. They have waited for this moment since the island.
Mm.
They have touched and taken the jade, and now within you reside 1,000,000 lost souls, souls belonging to this foreign god. And to your hands have touched Odotaro, the summoner of Korobas.
Mm.
Heberic, even gods of war will tire of war. It seems only that mortals will not. No matter, he has absolved you of all blame. His blood has brought life to dead lands. He deems it a worthy sacrifice. That's when Heberic says, I killed my god. Uh, so this is that thing where Heberic has something to do with all this. And it has something to do with the the all the jade thing
Yeah.
and the ghost hands and what have you.
Yeah, I
And
didn't remember Heberic's role in all of this. I do recall being surprised when we saw Heberic again in this book, and the introduction to him was interesting. Like I was guessing that it was Heberic, but I wouldn't let myself believe that it was because he's dead, isn't he? But yeah, but I don't remember what he ended up doing with all of this.
well, one hand glowed green because there's a crippled god was there. The elder gods were there. Um, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what was going on here. It was very confusing. Um, oh wait, this is the the ghost hands closed about the Odotaro dragon,
Mm,
and the Odotaro dragon was being drawn closer down above them.
forming a multi-headed leviathan began to tear itself apart once more.
So I'm guessing that these ghost hands were the ones because one was Odotaro, one was Jade,
Mm,
and they were responsible for containing this Odotaro dragon.
mm,
And that's when the manifestation of Tiem went away,
okay.
tore
Mm.
itself apart, and the dragons pulled away.
I promised
So,
burn. I promised you, didn't I? And Quick
yeah,
Ben promised burn. That he'll find out what's poisoning her and fix it.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. So that's what he kind of had that idea. he was involved in that aspect of it, of getting rid of that ogre
Mm,
tower dragon. Um, Bloody idealist. We needed to walk away sooner or later. No matter how much you put into what you've made, you have to turn and walk away.
mm,
Oh, that's Cotillion and Shadow Throne having their one of their usual conversations. Um,
mm,
and he's like Cotillion's wondering if if they should have given up the empire.
mm.
Um, the whole series, you're assuming Lysine stole the empire from them, and of
Yeah.
course, that's not the case. They actually gave it up.
Mm.
Um, and of course, he's telling you the reason they had to walk away. They couldn't keep the empire and do what they had to do, what they wanted to do as gods, um, as well.
So the opening scene of Gardens of the Moon, or like one of the opening scenes where they set the hounds loose on the Malazan army, it's like they're seeking revenge for having their throne stolen from them. What was that if he if they gave it to her willingly? I don't
Well,
remember
I
it.
think they had to give the illusion that she took it,
Oh, okay. Okay.
not that they just stepped aside.
Mm,
Because they didn't want anybody to know that they were ascending. That's why they changed their names. That's why they changed their identities.
mm.
Um, and because he was previously dancer and uh,
Kellenwed. And
Kellenvit, yeah,
mhm.
and so there's a whole that whole reasoning behind it all is like you can't just walk away. You have to. I mean, they turned and walked away, but you can't just give it up. Say, all right, we're done. You know,
Yeah.
that's not going to work. So they had to make it look like Lysine stole it from them.
Mm. Makes sense.
Finally, we get to the epilogue.
Oh, we're at the epilogue. Nice.
Yes. Um, and Gessler, we are told, died saving the life of a dog.
Yeah.
That one, Colat, the one guarding the barrow's entrance. See how they await me now? It is because I am the only one the dog will let pass into the chamber. I drag Gessler's body in there myself.
Mm.
Um,
Who is this?
who is this? Uh,
Kessler and Stormy? No, Stormy died on the
well,
stairs.
Stormy died in the stairs.
Mhm.
Is it Fiddler?
No. Kaelit?
Caleb? Oh, Caleb? Huh. Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
And that was very cool when Gessler and Stormy basically won the heart of the Crippled God. That whole battle up there was nuts.
Yeah.
um, but and yeah, he he died saving the life of a dog.
Yeah.
um, that was very interesting there. And this was when Corlat was looking on the um the funeral basically
Mm.
from a distance, kind of,
Mhm.
and then they brought her in. Fiddler. Um, let's see, is it his? She faced a barrow entrance. They were Marines, she said in a weak voice. I thought a measure of respect. So she wasn't gonna go there, but out of respect, but she was going to give up the that was it jewelry or something that
Mm.
he gave her
Yeah.
and give it back to him.
Yeah.
But Fiddler said, no, if you give that up, that will destroy him.
Mm.
Um, and then, you know, she was like, I thought he left me, and he said, no, he hasn't. And of course, then we see
Whiskey Jack
um,
waiting for
Whiskey
her.
Jack waiting for her. So that was one of those another emotional moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was brilliant. I love that the book ended on that note.
yeah, yeah. Because then, yeah, right here, strings drew a song into the night air, and she broke into a run and went to Whiskey
Yeah.
Jack. So that was yeah, that was how it ended, and it was just a bittersweet ending there. That very emotional and something else. So um, yeah, it was such a when they killed the Crippled God, when Cotillion did that, it was very dramatic, and it was
Mm,
very, but it was just like, wow, after all that,
mm.
just to kill this guy, and it's kind of a mercy killing,
Yeah. And that
and
released him, right? Somehow.
I
He got
believe
to
so.
go back
Yeah,
to his world. Okay.
got to go back to his world. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, and or at least get him out of this one.
Mm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. His
but he
followers
was
are right there. So,
But he was basically tortured the whole time he was
mm.
here,
Yeah.
so it was kind of a mercy to get him out of it, to kill
Hmm.
him, basically. Uh, so what a story. Uh, it's the most epic thing ever,
Hmm.
which, speaks to my fantasy heart. Um, and, I think, I don't it's, hard to think of anything that wrapped up in a way that this wrapped up without but with also leaving a lot of questions and a lot of mystery as
Hmm.
well, that, it just goes to show that not everything has to be explained, for you to enjoy something. Not everything has to be wrapped up in a nice, neat little package that says that, where we have all the answers and stuff like that. Just like real life, there's a lot of complication. There's a lot of things that don't end. There's a lot of things that aren't resolved, and it's just powerful. It's my favorite series ever, and I think it's yours too.
Yes, it is. Favorite series, some of my favorite books of all time within the series. And
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we made it just under 2 hours,
Hmm.
which is amazing. But of
Yeah.
course, we didn't go over everything. Was there any last thoughts that
No, I think we
you
covered
might
quite a
have?
bit. Yeah, this is one of the most powerful books that I've read, and I'm glad to have read it. We are currently rereading it on the Page Chewing Forum, so I'm really enjoying that and reading how much of it has been set up in the first book, how much
Mhm.
explanation of the world we got in the first book that completely went over my head the first time I was reading it. But yeah, I know you really enjoyed your reread of the series, so I'm glad to have started that myself, and we'll pull you into a few discussions as we go along.
Yeah. No, I'm kinda envious, that you're on your first reread, which sounds kind of strange, but, uh,
Yeah. and
um,
and then envious. And you know how there are some books for which we're like, oh, I wish I could read that again for the first time so I could experience it for the first time. I think for this series, the thing to be envious of is the first reread.
yeah, and
And
that makes it kinda unique
yeah.
amongst books, and that you're
Hmm.
actually the reread is for me, it was actually more enjoyable
Yeah. Yeah.
'cause and just discovering everything that he put in there is incredible, and so, um, that's unique. I don't maybe it will I'll have that feeling with some other books in the future, but, um, and, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I did kinda get that feeling a little bit when rereading The Lord of the Rings a second time and then
Mm.
in rereading the Covenant series by Donaldson. Um,
Mm.
I kinda got those feelings with those books, but nothing to this level, this of rereading these, quite the unique experience.
Yeah, rewarding rereads. Okay.
All right. So thank you everybody if you stuck with us this long, and hopefully you've read this book, so we didn't just give away everything. Um, and once again, be good to each other, and we'll see what we get into next.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.